All right. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, whatever time zone you're in. Hello. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight for our candidate info session for TPE Virtual 2021. And so we're going to go through some housekeeping things before we actually jump in and get started. And we'll go from there. It's going to be a good time. So as folks are joining us this evening, just wanted to give you a few things to keep in mind. So this is a Zoom webinar, and so you'll be able to see us as panelists, but we can't see you, and you all won't be able to see each other. So there's that. This session is being recorded. So for those of your peers that weren't able to join us this evening, we will be uploading the recording to our YouTube channel a few days afterwards. Should you have any questions, feel free to utilize the chat feature. You can either send a message directly to all of the panelists, or if you want to directly message the placement exchange, feel free to do that. And then just for the sake of making sure we are minimizing any sort of audio feedback, but it shouldn't be an issue, making sure to keep yourself muted as well. So. And with that, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. So hello, everyone. My name is Kirby R. Gibson. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I serve as the TPE chair-elect for the TPE Planning Committee. Outside of my TPE role, I serve as the Assistant Director of Residence Education at Michigan State University. So go green, go white. And then I'll pass it on over to Dr. Kirsten Fox.
Good evening or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are. I'm Kirsten Fox, and I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I am the director of TPE. And the best part of my job is getting to work with all of our wonderful TPE committee. My role with TPE is it's sponsored by both ACU Hawaii and NASPA as the main presenters. So I get to work for both professional associations, which is great, though I came to the TPE role after almost 20 years on college campuses and various student affairs roles, and once went through the placement process. So I will be here to go over some logistics and then really fade into the background so the committee can talk more about TPE, and I'll help answer questions, so feel free to keep asking them. And with that, I'll turn it over to Nick.
Good evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are, be blessed. If you're watching this later on recording, hello to you. My name is Nick Bates. I serve on the TPE Planning Committee, working specifically with candidate development, along with Christian. My role outside of TPE is at Boston University in the Howard Thurman Center for Common Ground as an assistant director for Thurman Center Networks. So go be you. Of course, you know I'm going to be biased in that regard. Happy to be here with you all, and I'll turn over to Christian.
Thank you, Nick. Good day, afternoon, evening, depending on where you are. My name is Christian Rafael Sparrow. I do he, him, his pronouns. I currently serve as a co-chair with Nick for candidate development. And during my day job, I'm the assistant director for staff development, engagement, and onboarding. That's a very long title to say I help professionals with their training and their professional development in the workplace at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia.
All right, cool. Thank you all so much for introducing yourselves. And we're just a few of a small but mighty team that works to put on the TPE virtual event, as well as provide a number of other resources for you all throughout as it relates to your search needs. So in terms of our time together this evening, we're going to talk about some event info and registration. And so you all are probably like, when is TPE Virtual happening? But also go into talking about the benefits and value of participating in TPE Virtual, give you some context about TPE at a glance and what we've heard from past participants, as well as being able to talk about some candidate development initiatives and resources that'll help you along the way, share some important dates and some upcoming events, do a little social media plug, and then we'll have time for any questions, comments, or concerns that you all may have. As I stated before, feel free to utilize the chat or Q&A feature to share your questions and such with us, and we'll get to them as best as we can. So with that, we'll turn it over to Kirsten to talk about the event itself.
Great. Well, and hopefully, since you registered for this event, you've been on our website, but the event will take place from Monday, March 1st through Friday, March 5th. One of the benefits of being virtual is it gives you the flexibility to kind of come in and out when it works for you in your schedule. Obviously, we hope you are able to take as much advantage of it as possible, but we know that's also not always possible depending on your job responsibilities, family responsibilities, school responsibilities, and so forth. Monday and Tuesday will really be set up, if you think of almost a professional conference. So it'll be filled with professional development sessions. There will also be institutions that have registered to provide an institutional spotlight to help candidates understand more about their campus, their job, their department. So those will be scattered throughout those 2 days, and once we have set the times, they'll be on the calendar. There'll be an all-welcome event for both candidates and employers with a variety of speakers, including the president of NASPA, Kevin Kruger, and the CEO of Aku Hawaii, Mary De Niro. So we're really excited that they'll be joining us. And the candidate development team will talk more about some of those educational type sessions that will take place as well. Wednesday through Friday will be what our traditional interview days are. So they'll obviously all take place virtually. We do have an interview scheduling platform that we'll talk a little bit more about today. And then we'll even do a future session where we actually walk through that a little bit more in depth. And eventually there'll also be a written companion piece as well, because we know it can sometimes be confusing. So that's where you and employers will really connect to have those interviews live, just over Zoom, as opposed to in a convention center. And in addition to that, there'll be additional resources provided, right? So roundtable discussions, maybe some other, panels or presentations. And then just like we would do if we were in person, we'll have candidate coaching available. So some of you that may have gone through TPE in the past will know that we always had opportunities to sign up to be coached during the process to be able to answer kind of changing questions as you're going through the process. And then the committee will be around as well to answer any kind of questions, from something as simple as how do I reach out to a specific employer, to asking a question as to, I'm not sure I answered that question correctly. Do you have some advice as to how I might reframe it in the future, right? Whatever it might be. So that's kind of the schedule. It will start at 8:30 in the morning Eastern time most days. And the interview days will actually go until 10 o'clock Pacific or Eastern time, 7 o'clock Pacific time, Wednesday and Thursday, and then until 8 p.m. or 5 p.m. Pacific time on Friday. So we know it's a long day. Again, this is where we say take advantage of it as much or as little as you want. We didn't want to disadvantage anyone in any one time zone, which is why the day is from 8:30 in the morning Eastern until 10 p.m. at night Eastern time. So everyone can kind of find time within that. And then you'll be able to just block out times if you want to be sleeping or in class or so forth. So that's what the kind of schedule looks like. And just as we'll continue to answer questions as they come in, but one of them that came in was relevant to the schedule. You get to really choose when you want to participate, right? So the question was, do we need to attend both days or just one? Most employers that are participating will try to take advantage of all of the interview days, but you'll be able to block your schedule to participate when you want. The registration rate is $25. So we're really excited. We think that's a really great cost. If you think about just a virtual conference right now, the fact that there'll be both educational sessions, you could sign up for one-on-one coaching, as well as the opportunity to have access to the TPE portal, all the registered employers, the workshops. There'll be workshops for registered candidates between now and then as well. There's a dashboard once you're registered and the schedule's open. We'll continue to actually upload with written resources as well. And so it's a really great, we know that $25 can still it's still money. But one of the benefits of, again, being virtual is we were able to lower the registration cost significantly. And that really just goes to kind of cover the technology, as the volunteer committee here really volunteers their time. So hopefully, I know a lot of grad programs will sometimes sponsor, but if not, hopefully that cost is well worth it, given all of the educational resources that come with TPE as well. So the registration is up on the website, and interview scheduling will open next week. So that will hopefully give you a little bit of an overview. This is the website. So if you have not been on it before, you can just go to theplacementexchange.org, and the left-hand column is the virtual event. You can just click right on virtual event and you'll be able to register right there. And then, like I said, there will be an interview in the register today button at the top of the website. You'll not be able to see interview scheduling yet because it's not yet open, but that will open the week of February 1st. So just next week. But before then, as you're searching all the employers, you will be able to see who's an event post, which means they've already posted their position. There's lots of employers who have registered but haven't yet posted. But then, just like there's the register today radio button, anyone who's registered for TPE will have the opportunity to, it'll say contact employer will be the radio button, and you can start contacting employers that are registered with a job posted as soon as you register for the event. You do not have to wait for the interview scheduling to be open. So with that, I'm going to turn it, I'm actually going to turn off my video for a little bit to be able to be behind the screen, answering some questions and maybe even looking up some things that you ask. And I will turn it over to Nick.
So as Kirsten mentioned, this year, if you're asking yourself, what's the question, the big question, right? Why TPE virtual? So as Kirsten mentioned, it's significantly cheaper than it would be if you were actually in person. As you can see, candidates only have to register at $25. And so, yes, again, as Kirsten mentioned, it is money, so it does cost something, but it's significantly cheaper than it has been in the past with the in-person format. As well as it's very efficient. So we're going to have an all-in-one virtual format. And so you can probably do this from the comfort of your own home or another, very intimate private space that you're used to, instead of having to be in a ballroom during our normal times as well. And so that's very beneficial for you in terms of timing, ease, a lot of these different things that we have to consider. Whether you have all of the materials necessary for the day in your bag, these are all things that you really don't have to spend as much time worrying about. And so it's also a bit of a relief to have this virtual format as well for candidates as well. Accessibility, it's a lot more accessible. You see the barriers are usually cost. How can I get there? Let me make sure my flight is right. All of these things that you have to do to mentally prepare yourself prior to even mentally preparing yourself to go through placement aren't factors this year as we have this virtual format. Additionally, you have access to our resources on a little bit of an extended basis. In a minute, we'll talk about the TPE Academy, which for us is a program that in the past has sort of been a little bit sort of pre-TPE, building into TPE. This year, we're kind of going through TPE, and we're going to continue offering resources to really live that mission of being TPE 365, which is really important to us. And lastly, there's a huge number of variety of different positions and functional areas, and I'll really get into it and talk a little bit more about that with the next slide. Cool. So some facts. Unlike our previous president, we believe in facts. And just a little playful shot, having a little bit of fun. But we're gonna have some facts about the questions that we often get about TPE. And so the number one question, and I believe it's a question that is in our Q&A box, are there non-housing positions available through TPE Spring Event? And the answer to your question is absolutely yes, correct. As you can see on our graphic here, there's about a little bit over 50% of our jobs are typically housing and residence life positions. And outside of that, we have a variety of different other positions as well, usually multicultural and diversity, leadership development programs, fraternity and sorority life are some of the big, more recognizable ones, but we often have other administrative positions. And we also usually have positions for mid-level positions and functional areas as well. And so, some people tend to think of TPE as a thing that is only for graduate students, and that's just simply not the facts. And so again, we appreciate the facts here. Additionally, we have a wide variety of institution types, be it large public or large private, mid-sized public or mid-sized private, a variety of different institutions who participate in TPE. So you have a chance of having a multitude of different experiences represented at the placement exchange. Again, we are here to talk about facts. And so TPE being only a thing for housing professionals is just simply untrue. TPE being only a thing for small schools or large schools is simply untrue. TPE, we really strive to be a place for everybody. And that's what you can see is sort of represented here with our graphics. And lastly, we have some survey things. And so I think almost every person that is representative of our committee has actually at some point been a candidate for TPE. And we've all had various different roles. But you can see that a lot of people, we have 90% that would recommend our TPE virtual. And these statistics are actually mixed up with some folks and some ideas from when TPE was in person and also when TPE was virtual this past year in 2020. And so as you can see that we have really high rates of satisfaction for our candidates and our employers, and we do our best to make sure that we can provide as many resources as possible for both parties, making this experience seamless. And just because we're in virtual, it doesn't mean our effort will stop in trying to make sure that TPE is as seamless as possible, helping you with your desire to find placement. Although we cannot guarantee that you will be placed anywhere, that's not for us to guarantee, but we do guarantee you an opportunity at trying to be placed somewhere and having resources that support your career journey, and that's really important to us. All right. Is this your slide, Christian? Right? Yeah, this is for you.
Yes,
okay.
It is.
I was about to talk and I was like, nah, this looks like Christian's slide. So you know what? We'll let him do that.
Thank you so much, Nick, for the transition. So as Nick mentioned, we want to focus on facts about what is the TPE, but I think additionally what's very powerful is the testimony of individuals, right? So we can sit here and tell you how great TPE is, but what are people actually saying? So looking at last year's virtual events, just two things in terms of data to keep in mind. 76% of candidates advanced in the TPE job search after the virtual event. So that's, keep in mind, 76% of people, of candidates who went through TPE job search progress after the virtual event. And 78% of candidates matriculated in the search process with TPE employers. So when I read that information, I think what's important is recognizing that whether it be TPE, whether it be the employers or the candidate themselves, there seems to be some correlation of progression when it comes to the job search process and TPE. But less of my interpretation of things, and let's look at what people are actually saying, right? So the first testimony someone wrote, the ability to meet with multiple employers and variety of positions in one location. The fourth bullet point said, attending the TPE encouraged me to apply to schools and locations I may not have otherwise considered. And so I'll read one more. The second one says, the customer service on-site was amazing. And I think the reason to that is, and we can transition to the next slide, Kirby, is when we're thinking of the TPE or even the job search experience, it's holistic, right? I think we've all, or at one point or another, have thought about applying for a job, and it could be a very lonely experience, right? Of submitting your resume, your cover letter, and then meeting with multiple employers. And there's almost a sense of vulnerability in that because you don't know what people are going to say, right? And I think what's very important is that while TPE may have had a lot of success of connecting candidates with employers, it's beyond that. It's making sure that you have resources to find what you need and to navigate this virtual space that is with COVID-19 and the job search process. And when we mean resources and tools, it's not just matching you or connecting you with employers. It's, again, holistic, right? So one, how do we make sure that you as a candidate have your resume ready and good to go? That you feel comfortable in the spaces. What are the realities of things? So what happens if you get an offer? What happens if you hear rejection? And so I think that's what I love about TPE. And as someone who didn't go through TPE before, I kind of, there's part of me that says, man, I wish I would have went through this, because the job search process does not need to be a lonely one when there's places like TPE that try its best to connect you with as many resources so you can be successful. And I think that's a powerful mission. When we go to our next slide, we'll talk about some of the events that we're doing, and we'll also talk about things that aren't on the slide. So the first thing we'll discuss is the TPE Academy. We've said it a few times here. The TPE Academy is focused specifically for candidates. So if you are registered and you're going through the TPE experience, what we do is connect candidates with coaches. Coaches are usually individuals who have 3 or more years of experience in higher education and student affairs. And as Nick shared earlier, we're taking an approach this year where we're making sure coaches and candidates speak through not only during TPE, but throughout the TPE experience, right? And so if you are someone who needs support or hoping to create that mentorship relationship with someone in terms of job searching outside of your institution, I'm gonna just drop the link in here once I'm done speaking, and you have to be registered to be part of it, but I hope you do register to be part of this amazing coaching experience. And when we're thinking of pre-TPE, there's just a few things we're doing. So we'll have 2 workshops coming up in the month of February. One is becoming empowered in the virtual experience. So again, this is a virtual event. So how do we make sure people feel empowered in this experience, knowing that during a time of COVID and like webinar fatigue is real, how do we make sure individuals feel energized and take ownership of their journey in this virtual experience? And then the second part is professional branding. I mean, everything from Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, but also finding the right connections for you. How do you present yourself to the best of your ability in these spaces? We are also going to talk about sessions during TPE. So everything from managing your well-being to how do you navigate and manage rejection? And then post TPE, we're going to launch almost a mirror copy of the TPE Academy, which is focusing on the 90-day cohort. So if you find a job, or if you're still going through the process, how are you successful in the first 90 days? Nick, anything in addition to programs that I might have left out?
No, I would just add that Christian and I are really here to support you through your entire process with the job search as best as we possibly can. And so if that means we can help with some resume reviewing and all of these different things, that's what our working group is designed to do. But we're here for you through the process, not just up until TPE. And we want to make sure that we emphasize that, because we understand that some folks may, still be continuing this process long after TPE. That's just the way the hiring cycles work. And we want to know that TPE is here, not just for the large event, but 365, as we mentioned before.
Cosign, thank you, Nick. And so just a few things in terms of important dates. So if you have your cell phone, if you have a notebook, if you have a Word document, whatever you do to take notes, text yourself, just a few things to keep in mind. The first thing is that, as shared earlier, registration is open now. So all you have to go is go to the placementexchange.org and register for the TPE experience. The virtual experience will be from Monday, March 1st through Friday, March 5th. And then you'll be able to start scheduling interviews early February. The other things to keep in mind, and I know we're going to talk about social media in a minute, but make sure that you're aware of the opportunities coming from us. So one example is we have something called the TPE story shorts. There's going to be one in February. There are going to be 2 in February, February 4th, and then February 10th, one for employers and one for candidates.
And so, as Christian mentioned, there's tons of things that will be happening leading up to the event, as well as during and after the event. And so wanting you all to be in tune with the information that we want to share. And so, of course, if you register for the event or create an online profile, you will be added to a listserv in which we send out newsletters and things along those lines. but also encourage you all to connect with us on social media. And so you can like our Facebook page, The Placement Exchange. You can follow us on Instagram at The Placement Exchange. And then you can also follow us on Twitter at 365 TPE. And we'll be sharing all sorts of things as it relates, again, to some upcoming initiatives and tips, as well as just opportunity for you to get to know the committee and interns a bit better. So. And with that, that's the info session that we have for you all today. Should you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at info@theplacementexchange.org. We'll answer some questions here, of course, but after this event. And then we encourage you all to check out our website as well, theplacementexchange.org, for all information regarding the on-site event and other resources that we have to share with you all. And so I know you all have been blowing up the chat and the Q&A feature with all sorts of questions. And we're gonna go ahead, I'll stop sharing my screen so you can see all of us. And we're gonna go ahead and tackle some of these questions that you have here. So, first one here, see, I see Kirsten linked it as, we should answer this question live. Suggestions to make the most of the next month prior to TPE. So I'm like, I can take it. My co-panelists can also take it.
I'll take this one. First and foremost, I would suggest that you check our YouTube channel. We have a lot of different story shorts and TPE Jumpstart programs where we talk about when's a great time to start searching last year. The next best time is right now. Should I have my resume ready? All of those different things we talk about in TPE Jumpstart and story shorts on YouTube. But the last suggestion I'll make is making sure all of your materials are in order, making sure that you're interview ready. I think this is the time to start practicing some mock interviews, etc. Having someone, help you out with your answers to interview questions. I think one of the hardest questions always to answer in any interview is, so tell us a little bit about yourself. So I think it's a great time to really practice that elevator pitch.
Thanks, Nick. Anything you want to add, Christian or Kirsten?
I co-sign what Nick shared.
Sign up for TPE Academy. Definitely something to do before next month and prior to TPE. All right. So another question that came up is, does TPE offer suggestions on fit based on insider knowledge? So i.e. based on what you're looking for, X job would be a great thing for you. So, good question. So one of the features that is actually available on the TPE website is actually a filter-based option. And so if you were to indicate particular functional areas that you may be interested in, you can search in that way. Sometimes there are jobs or positions that are featured throughout each week for you to check out. And so you can utilize those things as you're navigating your own search, as well as to kind of think about what you're looking for. You can adjust it by location, institution type, institutions like size, functional area, and so forth, that help you navigate essentially what you think would be a good fit for yourself. All right. Anything anybody else on the panel would like to add? Okay, cool. Another question that came through is, what should we send to employers if we are interested in their position? Just a resume? Ooh, really good question. And so the employer will indicate on their posting the information in which they would like you to submit. And so it's going to vary per institution. And so in some cases, the institution will say, please contact X individual and send them cover letter, resume, etc. Some institutions may indicate that you need to actually apply on our institutional HR website and submit these materials. Others may just require you to submit a resume. It varies, and it's important as you are looking through position postings as they become available that you are paying attention to what information that they indicate there. You can also communicate with employers through the TPE website. There will be a button that says like contact institution or contact point of contact, and they will be able to get back to you as well with regards to that. So, all right, we're getting a few questions about like, so what is TPE Academy? What are some coaching opportunities? So can you all elaborate on that a little bit more for folks?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give Nick, how about we both talk about it and give it both, I'll give the logistics side of things. And so, as we know and shared, the job search process could be a stressful one, a lonely one, but it doesn't have to be. And so the TPE Academy, we launched the call today. So follow us on social media or click on that link I sent. But the program focuses on ongoing coaching and development for candidates. So candidates, individuals who have registered for TPE and are going to TPE Virtual, they are paired with a volunteer coach, someone who has over 3 years of experience in higher education student affairs. And they meet about once a month, but it's really up to the candidate and coach to define how often they're meeting to work through our curriculum. And that's everything from identifying opportunities that you are interested in and want to apply to cover letters, to resumes, to even if you're offered a letter, what next? And so that is like the logistics of the TPE Academy. I was a coach before. I still keep in contact with my candidates, and it's a great mentorship opportunity, but it's another opportunity to have someone on your side and rooting for you and supporting you through that experience. And I'll pass it to Nick to share more.
In addition to candidate coaching, which entails things such as resume reviews, cover letter reviews, mock interviewing, we also offer different webinars and programs that we offer specifically to those who are registered within the TPE Academy. And so it's a great opportunity to take advantage of those things as well. Again, I want to mention before that, this is not just about leading up to the TPE virtual event, but this is to support you through that whole entire career process. And so your coaching with your candidate can also be a space to talk about salary negotiation and how do we approach that. It can be a space to talk about how do you navigate if the institution is requiring a presentation for an on-campus interview. These are all spaces that you can do that, have that conversation with a seasoned professional that may be someone a little bit outside of your institution type that can give you a little bit more of a variety of different opinions about how to approach these different processes.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So there's a question around any tips for building a candidate profile. I'm not sure where to start. And so as we mentioned earlier on, in the presentation, we will be offering a session in the near future that will walk you through the TPE website as a whole, as well as being able to develop that candidate profile page and learn about interview scheduling. The candidate profile page is meant to be a snippet of who you are. And so as you actually log on to the website, you'll see that there'll be different areas for you to upload a resume, upload a cover letter, and indicate your functional areas of interest. There's an opportunity for you to share a blurb, I think we can still upload pictures. I can't remember if that feature was taken down or not. But really is an opportunity for you to kind of give just a showcase and a little preview of who you are. Think of it as kind of like it's our own version of a LinkedIn profile page. And so we will be talking about it in more depth about some of those things for you to think about and what to include. But some of those things can, again, also be what you're looking for as an aspiring person entering into the field or looking to take your next step. being able to showcase some skills that you have and experiences that you have are some things to consider. Kirsten, it looks like you're going to add something too.
No, I was just going to take a next question when you're done with this one. So
cool. Go ahead, Kirsten.
I was just going to say, we've gotten a few questions, and as Kirby mentioned, we'll do another session where we walk through the interview scheduling process. But I know there've been a few kind of about just that process in general, and just to touch on it. So the way it will work when it opens, registered employers will be able to see who is registered candidates. So when they do their search, there's a little box that'll say search TPE event candidates, and then it will pull up all of the candidates who are registered. However, note, it will only pull up candidates once your profile is public. So you have time to create that profile privately before you feel it's ready, but the employers won't know you're a participant until your profile is public. But then they'll start going through things. Similarly, you'll be able to see event posts that are, so the employers, our online job board will have just all events, as well as, or all online jobs, as well as event post jobs, which will have a little blue box that says event post. Those are the ones that will be interviewing during TPE. We encourage you to check out all the jobs, regardless if they're an event or not, and apply. When it comes time to actually scheduling, once it opens, you can reach out, and you're actually encouraged to reach out to any of the employers that are participating in the event. Registered candidates will be able to see a contact employer button that you'll have access to, and then you can reach out and say, hi, Kirby, my name's Kirsten Fox. I saw your posting. I'm really interested in the position. I would love the chance to interview with you during TPE, for example. So that's one of the things that registered candidates can do. Only employers can actually put interviews on the schedule, okay? So what they'll be able to see is when you both have times that match during that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they'll just be able to put an interview on your schedule. So that's why we always say to make sure you'll block out times you don't want an interview. So if you're in California and you don't want a 5:30 in the morning interview, since they start at 8:30 East Coast, then you're going to probably want to block that time out. Like I said, we'll have a future session, and we'll have a companion guide that will come out once registration is open. We don't want to overwhelm you with that process right now. I promise once you're in it, it'll make sense, but I know there's been a lot of questions about that. And so I just wanted to kind of walk through that process a little bit.
Thank you, Kirsten. And I see Christian went ahead and shared a little bit about navigating imposter syndrome, managing that, and being able to, again, remember what your purpose is, remembering why you're on this journey. We all recognize the anxiety and a number of emotions that comes with job searching, right? And acknowledging that for some of you all, part of job searching is a means to survival, is a means to being able to get by, right? And I think oftentimes too, our field can sometimes create an environment where you feel as though you have to compete against one another in order to get a position. And I just want to emphasize that that's a bunch of bull crap, and that the opportunities that are meant for you and opportunities that you desire and would like to be a part of will manifest its way in some way, shape, or form. And that you are worthy, that you have a lot to bring to any table that you may show up at. And if someone were to tell you otherwise, you don't want to work there. And so as you are navigating again, what you want as a goal, using that as a reminder to why you're on that journey, being realistic, of course, with your goals and whatnot, and making sure that you are surrounding yourself with what I like to call your village, your cheerleading team, to kind of serve as those reminders as well in terms of what you are able to bring. And so, like Christian just said, what is for you won't pass you, and what is meant to miss you, go ahead and say bye, Felicia. And so I would say, as you all go into this, keep those things in mind. We also want to be realistic and acknowledge that COVID has completely really shifted the way that a lot of things are happening. And so there may be moments where you're wondering like, okay, why haven't I heard back from an institution yet? Or is it me? No, everybody is still trying to figure out what this landscape means for us and how it really is impacting what availability of positions are there. How are we making sure that we're able to pay folks for the labor that they're doing? And so know that be able to keep in mind the things that are within your sphere of control. And if you put yourself in a position of where you're getting overwhelmed by those things, be able to take a step back, breathe, and then be able to take that next step forward.
Can I add on to that piece, Kirby? Because this is also connected to a question we received about presenting at NASPA after TPE, and the topic that this person is presenting on could be considered professional, and worried about potential employers and will they sit on the resume, all those different things. I think this is also a good time to do some reflection on the type of professional that you want to be in this field. I think that at some point in your career, you're going to do something or articulate something that may not be popular amongst the masses. And I think you have to decide what that means to you to articulate that perspective. For some folks, they're articulating a perspective that is connected to their humanity and their truth. And so it's really important for them to share. For others, they decide to choose otherwise, and for them, they're not invested in that way. I don't, begrudge anybody either or. That's simply your choice and your preference. And I think you have to decide that. And I think that is really related to how you decide to where you want to work, what institution type works for you, what role works for you, what do you need in this. Just as you are being interviewed by employers, you're also interviewing them on your end. And so you really have to decide what type of professional that you want to be. For me personally, it was always important to make sure that I was authentically me, despite whatever cost came with that. And that's just my personal preferences as a Black man. But I can't speak for someone else. It may differ. And so at the end of the day, you have to decide that. But there will always be something that, could be considered controversial or a red flag that you may end up doing or participating or performing throughout your career in student affairs.
Well said, Nick. Well said. Well said. All right. So there's a few questions. Yes, thank you, Sydney. Thank you. So there was a question around, may you attend TPE and not attend the conference? And so with the structure of how TPE is set up this year, the event is actually a bit removed from the NASPA annual conference that it typically follows. And so it still is following, NASPA is still following TPE just a couple weeks later. And so if you intend on just participating in TPE, that is perfectly okay. If you want to attend TPE and NASPA, you are more than welcome to do that too. As Kirsten brought up before, you can participate as much or as little as you would like within the experience. And so if you only want to dedicate one day to interviewing, that is perfectly fine. And so it's really up to you and kind of how you want to manage your schedule.
Right. I'm going to jump in, Kirby, and answer another kind of technical question about employers. And I've just lost. Somebody mentioned that employers have been reaching out to you, encouraging you to apply on their university website. And we also got a couple questions about where to apply. So one of the things I would suggest is each institution will run their recruitment process the way that works either best for their institution or is deemed the only way they're allowed to do it by their institution. So the challenge there means there could be 5 positions you're interested in, and they have 5 different ways of going about the process. So, this goes back to what should you be doing in the next month also, right? So make sure that you're reading closely the job descriptions, and they have application instructions is one of the sections that we have them fill out. So read that section, because some employers will say you have to already have been in their university HR system to even be eligible for an interview. Others will say you don't even have to apply. If you just have an interest, I want to take this time to get to know you and interview you. And then if we want you to move forward in the search, we're going to ask you to apply through the university system. So each school is different. If employers are reaching out to you, you probably don't then also need to reach out and request an interview. But if it's a school you're interested in, just be conversational with them. If they've reached out to you, reach back and say, great, I'd love the opportunity, right? I mean, and if you don't want the opportunity, it is also okay to decline an interview, okay? I'm gonna say that again. It is okay to say no, thank you. Right, you're also interviewing them. You're going to have to make some decisions, what you're interested in, where you may be interested in going, and so that is up to you. But I would let them know. I wouldn't just ghost them per se. So do say thank you, but no thank you, right? And that's okay as well. So like I said, I would definitely read the instructions. I think that's the most important thing, because you don't want to miss a chance to be in the system. Some schools may do phone interviews or Zoom interviews before TPE Virtual. So I want to let you know that as well. They might use TPE Virtual as a chance to do some second round, maybe even third round. We don't see that often, but it has happened in the past. With TPE being the first week of March, it won't happen as much. When it's been later in March, they'll do more first rounds in advance. But I know that there are some schools that are really wanting to try to get candidates on campus safely, and knowing that might take more time this spring. They're starting their process now with first round interviews. So I'm sure many of you may have already been contacted. So that's pretty typical as well. But again, if you're not interested, you can say no.
And I want to add one thing to what Kirsten said around the no piece, is that the number of interviews do not determine your success or your worth in the TPE experience. And so I'm gonna I won't be able to see y'all in person like I typically do when I'm at the on-site event to be like and have that real conversation, but I'll have a conversation with you virtually. Do not schedule 40 plus interviews. And because at the end of the day, you're going to only be able to get one job, right? You're only going to accept one job. You may get multiple offers, but at the end of the day, you're going to have one job. And so really, and when we talk about this at our future event, really want you all to do your due diligence and researching an institution, thinking about your negotiables, thinking about your non-negotiables. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to live? What are things that you need? What are things that you want? What is the type of community that you want to be surrounded by? Where do you need to get your hair done and your nails done at, right? If those are things that you need, right? And so if you do your due diligence and being able to narrow down your list, you would end up being able to have anywhere between, like I would say, have no more than 20 interviews scheduled total, and that including some second rounds, maybe even third round interviews, in terms of your process, right? For some of you all, you may get a couple interviews, but I have known some folks who have only had like a few and ended up with like the job right after that, right? And so again, like we're not playing this competition game. We're not playing this game of wearing yourself out. Interviewing itself is a job, right? And it takes a lot of mental, physical, emotional, spiritual energy and to be able to navigate that. And you want to make sure that you are allocating enough time for caring for yourself. And I actually hold each and every one of you all accountable to contributing to what I like to call us care, right? How are y'all looking out for each other and making sure that you all are doing what you need to be well? Because this ain't supposed to be a sprint, y'all. Like it's gonna be a marathon, but like you can run that at your own pace. So there was a question about like the time commitment for TPE Academy, particularly as it relates to the curriculum. Could Nick, you talk about that?
Yes, there is a commitment, but most of the commitment to TPE Academy is at the discretion of your schedule with your coach. I'm sorry. So besides a few, about 2 or 3 sessions that we have, everything else is at the discretion or at your convenience with you and your coach on your time.
Cool. And then there was a question around there being a couple of higher level positions that are posted. Some of them are terminal degree level jobs. One of interest to me, just uploaded today, is there a deadline for the employers where we can have a better idea of when to check to see if the jobs are of interest to us before we sign up. So jobs are posted on the TPE website daily. And as we have alluded to a few times now, they will indicate what deadlines are and so forth as it relates to their processes. Some will have deadlines that lead up like right before the event, some during the event, and even after. Oftentimes, if you see a position that's posted, like let's say if someone posted a job now and it's not due until like April, part of that is just allowing for there to be opportunities for folks who are attending TPE, folks are attending out, like participating in searches outside of TPE, the opportunity to apply. And so as long as you make it based off of what the instructions they say to apply by, you should be fine, and they'll give you more information on that. But don't feel as though, like jobs are always going to be posted daily. And I would say as we get closer to the on-site event, you'll even see a surge in what those postings are. Even during the event, we have folks that register to just sign up day of to participate. So the opportunities will be available.
Yeah, I'm just going to chime in. I get calls from employers, and one of the most frequent questions they've asked me is, what's the absolute latest I can post a job? And I basically tell them March 5th. And there might be some that March 5th, because they're waiting to see if they're going to get approval from their institution. They're in that process right now. And so they're trying to get it posted, but it might be late. And then their hope is they can still come in March 5th. That way they have access to the candidates. And even if they don't get interviews that day, they'll still search by registered TPE candidate. Again, there's so many candidate profiles just in our system. And so one of the easiest ways for them to have an efficient search process is to look at who's registered. We know they prefer the group of registered candidates. And so they might come in March 5th just to still have access, even if they don't take advantage of those interview days. But they then might try to schedule a couple interviews that day also. So, just keep looking. I know for some of you, it makes it hard because you want to see what all the jobs are before you register. And I totally get that as well. That is one reason, you'll notice there's no early bird or late registration, because if you decide on March 5th, you see a job that you're interested in and you want to register on March 5th, you can register on Friday, March 5th, and then reach out to the employer and say, hey, I see that you're participating in TPE. I just came across your job. I'm really interested. I'd love the opportunity to talk with you. And they may have a full schedule, but then they might say, great, you know what, I'll reach out to you. Let's try to connect next week.
Yeah. So we see a couple more questions coming in, but I also want to be cognizant of time. Know that some of these questions that you all are asking are things that we definitely will be covering and leading up to the event, during the event, and so forth, because these are definitely valid questions, right? Like talking about being ghosted by employers, right? Or those moments of where, how do you talk about an experience that you had at an institution that hasn't necessarily been the greatest, right? But again, it's still experience that you all have. And so these are things that we definitely will be wanting to talk with you all at further detail on. So be on the lookout in the near future for some of those opportunities. And then with that, I think we got to the questions for the most part.
Can Christian answer that last question?
Go ahead, Christian.
Oh yeah, I got you. So there was a question that came in that Kirby just talked about. How do you talk about a position at a place that wasn't a great experience, but is one that you include in your resume because it's a primary experience? I won't lie. I had a past job where I loved the job I was doing, but hated the department. And so I think what I learned through my job search process is you can talk about a role. You can talk about the specific role, the task that you did. You can talk about the impact. You can talk about your own goals. And remember that you can talk about your journey within a position without bad talking in an employer, right? So even though that might be your primary experience, and even though you had a negative experience, well, what did you do? What did you accomplish? And how did that either further your own goals or the department or institutional goals? And I think it's also very important to know, like, you can also own an experience, right? If an experience was not a good fit for you, if you have reflected and have understood why that was not good for you and feel like you can share that professionally, I think that is okay. For me, I knew I couldn't live on anymore because I'm a doctoral candidate and I had to transition out of my life. And when I share that with people, they understand some of my challenges and struggles with that. So that would be my tip and advice.
I think there's, I see Brenda Ice, Dean Ice, TPE Chair Ice has entered the chat. Both her and Nick both alluded to the transferable skills. They provided me with X experiences needed for the next step, right? That's an opportunity to be able to highlight that, but also be able to think about how to articulate what you look for in a job, in an institutional environment, and are being able to also articulate what your values are as a practitioner. And so they provide you with those moments to really reflect on the type of impact that you want to have as a practitioner and who you want to be and who you don't want to be. And then again, like, we're not in the business of blacklisting and bad mouthing folks, because it doesn't set a good tone for anybody involved, even if you are on the receiving end of a behavior. So, but thank you all so much for a really great time this evening. Appreciate so much all of the questions that you all had for us. I'm really excited to get to interface and interact with you all during the event and right before and after. As I stated before, make sure to go to the TPE website, so the placementexchange.org, for more information regarding the event and so forth. And there'll be more information uploaded through the coming weeks about upcoming events, interview scheduling, and so much more. And feel free to reach out to us at any point. Our contact information is also on the website, and we are just delighted to help y'all out, because again, this isn't a journey that you need to be on by yourself. At the heart of what we do is connection, and I want you all to remember that. And remember the connections that you'll be able to foster with each other who's also going through this, but also with your homies on the Placement Exchange Committee. Take care, everyone. Stay hydrated, stay safe, stay moisturized. Wash your hands, wear your mask, wear 2 of them. Be well.